What's good, you guys? I am so excited right now. And I already know, like, some of you are probably going to look at this and be like, oh my god, she's on YouTube. Like, for real this time. Yes, for real this time. I am so pumped because I feel like I'm finally in a place where all of the interference has been removed and I can just do my work. And I love that for us because a lot of you in that place too. I'm so excited. Number one, thank you guys so much for being with me on this journey, for helping me, following me on Instagram. For those of you that are new, that are just discovering me, hi. For those of you that have been here since the beginning or been on Instagram since the beginning, I am so thankful for each and every one of you. And I'm really happy that my downloads, things I've been posting have been helping a lot of you. I am so excited. I'm being called to humanize myself for a lot of reasons. And I'm going to start posting on here about some of those reasons because as I'm walking my own path, my needs change. The needs of you guys change as you're ascending and walking your own respective paths. And I want to be more useful in that way, but also allow space for myself to process more of the things that I need to process. And so I know people follow me primarily for tarot or for downloads. I am still going to do those things, but I'm also going to be talking about different things, different topics. I do have a 7-year-old daughter. That's my baby, but she can be quite noisy. So if you hear background noise, I do apologize. I am a single parent. I am not going to pretend not to be a single parent, so things are not always going to be polished because this is my real life. So, but I thank you guys for being here. To introduce myself, my name is Aaliyah. I am a psychic intuitive, energy healer, an alchemist, among other things. Right now, I do work a 3D job, which I am trying to manifest my way out of. I really like the people that I work with, but I do feel like I'm ready to just expand into my true purpose. But I am a therapist in the 3D, mystic / alchemist in the 5D. And so I kind of really want to lean more into that second role. But yeah, I don't really know what's coming, or I don't really have expectations, or I'm just kind of feeling more comfortable showing up and being present as myself. And this is really hot, so I'm gonna let it cool off. Also on the agenda, I am neurodivergent. I am not going to pretend not to be neurodivergent. So if my way of communicating does not work for you, or if I got that 95 dial-up, that lag thing going on, sometimes I have to process things. If that does not work for you, then that doesn't work for you. I will make every effort to put timestamps or to speed up my content, or you have that option on YouTube as well, to kind of balance that out. But yeah, hi. So I've been reflecting on this topic of narcissism. I know, hot topic. It's a buzzword. Everybody's talking about it right now. I've been reflecting on narcissism and what it is, and my personal experience with people with a high degree of narcissism, and which has been my entire life, by the way. And I'm 33. I just turned 33. So there's been a lot of reflection happening for me. First, let me start by saying this. I am not discussing the topic of narcissism in this video from a mental health clinician perspective. I am not talking about people that are diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. I'm not talking about that specifically. Like, if you hold the belief that one has to have a documented diagnosis from a mental health clinician in order to be referred to as a narcissist, then this video is probably not going to resonate for you. Just a disclaimer. Now, I've discussed that many times as far as who qualifies for the term narcissist. And, there's different perspectives that people have on this. I personally don't believe that to say someone is a narcissist or to say someone is narcissistic requires an NPD diagnosis. I feel that narcissism is a trait that each person arguably has to some degree. I also believe that narcissism is a spectrum, and my personal belief is that someday they might actually update the DSM to reflect that spectrum, as opposed to you either got NPD or you don't. I do believe that that's something that may be coming just because of how some of these traits are presenting. But as I've also said on other platforms, I believe that a lot of people that would likely go in and get a diagnosis if they were to be evaluated are not actually going in to get that evaluation. So I don't believe that the lack of diagnosis in itself can be used as a basis to shut down conversations about narcissism, in which people are using the term narcissist to describe people who have not been diagnosed with NPD. I do see the importance of understanding that words have meanings. So one of the criticisms that I've seen a lot is that people are unhappy with certain people using therapy talk or psychology speak to describe people when they are not in the mental health field, like they don't have the credentials to diagnose. I don't believe that calling someone a narcissist is diagnosing them with narcissistic personality disorder. I do believe that someone, by proximity and by experience with them, can accurately assess that maybe a person has a high degree of narcissistic traits. Although I do understand that, yes, if we're saying there's 200 people calling their ex-boyfriend, for example, a narcissist, yeah, there's probably at least 55 of those people that are just angry about how the relationship ended up, and maybe they were mistreated by their boyfriend, but their boyfriend's not necessarily a narcissist. He likely just has a high degree of narcissistic traits. And then, of course, there is a percentage of people that are using that word to describe people that simply don't behave the way that they would like them to behave. So there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of factors involved, there's a lot of variables. Personally, I believe that criticism of, well, this person hasn't been diagnosed, you don't have the credentials to diagnose them, that criticism is more often made for the purpose of shutting down conversations about people that likely would be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. I think that is more either for the intention of or more so having the effect of causing people to feel invalidated and gaslit when they are accurately describing things that they experienced with people that actually traumatized them. So that is my perspective on all of that. I wanted to put that disclaimer before I continue here. But I've been thinking a lot about narcissism. As I've said, I've dealt with a lot of clearly distorted personalities in my personal life from childhood on, whether they were diagnosed or not. I do know personally that some of them have been diagnosed by mental health professionals. But I've been thinking about how I've dealt with people that are like that or that meet that criteria, and then the insight that I've gained from it. And it's interesting because someone that I follow that also follows me. I would give him a shout out because he has really great content, but I don't know how he might receive that. So I might ask him later to see if he's comfortable with me giving him that shout out. But I was really interested because he tagged me in a video of an interview where someone was interviewing Robert Greene. And Robert Greene is, of course, the author of The 48 Laws of Power, which is a very good book. It's on my shelf right now, actually. It's great if you are looking to learn about dark psychology, manipulation tactics, how to navigate that when you're on the receiving end, how your behavior might be perceived, navigating social situations in general. All of that is a very good book for that purpose. He also has some other good books, but I looked at the clip with the interview, and I don't remember exactly what the question was, but Robert Greene's answer was, it really resonated with me. The question generally was something to the effect of, do people that are higher achievers, or are people who are typically more successful than others, do those people have a higher degree of narcissism? And Robert Greene said essentially yes. Now, my understanding of narcissism currently is that there's different aspects of this. So there's the piece that most people are referencing when they talk bad about like narcissistic exes or people that are in their life that they identify as narcissists, which is the abusive component. And now, can you abuse someone and not be a narcissist? I believe so, yes. But to pretend that that's the same, the motivation behind the abuse is not the same. And when a person says narcissistic abuse, yes, that is an important distinction. It's 345. I see a lot of synchronicities. I don't know if I said this before because I'm also like shooting multiple clips of this, so if that is repetitive, I'm sorry. But I see a lot of synchronicities, and I might call them out from time to time. But yes, people that are not narcissists can abuse, but the function of the abuse is different. Someone can lose their cool and just fly off the handle and then feel very remorseful about it. And that could be because the primary issue is that they are anxious, or they have sensory challenges that cause them to be overwhelmed and sometimes crash out. Or, they have anger issues. All of those things could be a basis for abuse. With narcissistic abuse, it is about gaining personal validation from making another person feel small. It is about getting what we would call in psychology circles narcissistic supply, what we would call in more spiritual or occult circles, energy, harvesting energy, vampirism. That's what this type of abuse is with narcissists. That is not the same thing. So again, just to reiterate, I do think that a lot of the criticism that people are getting about this word has more to do with people feeling exposed than it actually has to do with even helping narcissists. And that's a separate video that I'm going to do. But back to what I was saying about Robert Greene, he said essentially yes, like high achievers or more successful people do have a high degree of one aspect of narcissistic trait, which is self-belief, confidence. Now, yes, for some people who are deeply narcissistic, or would qualify for an NPD diagnosis, a lot of that confidence is feigned. So a lot of these people are deeply insecure. And so they mask by pretending to be superior, or by pretending to view themselves as superior and prioritizing themselves over other people. Although I don't know, I think I'm still sitting with this premise that all narcissists are deeply hurt, sad individuals. I don't know that I agree with that. I do believe that that's the presentation for some people. I don't think that's the case for everyone. But looking at this particular aspect, I think Robert Greene is very correct. do have to believe in yourself maybe to a higher capacity than the average person does, then we're even conditioned or allowed to do so by societal standards, right? Like, there's a certain level of humility and playing small that we're encouraged to do, that we're expected to do. And so when you're exceptional, or you're particularly good at something, or you just, whatever your thing is, right? And I do believe we're all capable of being exceptional at something. When you are excellent at whatever your thing is, that is going to invite criticism. People are going to criticize you. And if you're going to maintain consistency in that position of excellence, and you're going to continuously create or do whatever you do and do it well without your mental health declining, you have to be confident to almost a delusional degree. And so this is where a lot of the confusion, I think, comes from. Because I think a lot of people are seeing these people with this almost supernatural level of confidence and labeling them narcissists. And it's coming from a place of insecurity. It's coming from a place of, I don't think I can access that in myself. And socially, we were told not to. Because we're all supposed to accept that everyone functions at the same level. No one is supposed to stand out too much more than other people. And this has layers to it, because that becomes even more true when it comes to different types of people from different backgrounds or different genders. It's like there's sort of this general rule that you're not supposed to really like yourself. And that might sound absurd, right? Some people might hear that and say, what are you talking about? Like, that's not a thing. Pretty much everything in this society requires us, in some degree, to be self-sacrificing. I believe on a personal level that there has to be a certain level of fawning or self-denial to really even buy into a lot of the things that we're expected to participate in as a society. Like, we're all kind of playing small on some degree. I believe that the people that fully embrace their sovereignty, they fully embrace their greatness, those are the people that tend to be called narcissists, whether they're actually treating people poorly or not. And so it's a very interesting thing, because it requires the person to examine themselves. Do I want to call you a narcissist because you have a confidence that I feel like I can't access, and I'm envious and I need to project that outward? Is that why I'm calling you a narcissist? Or am I calling you a narcissist because your behavior causes issues for people, or is against the greater good? And I feel that a lot of people, 1144, I feel that a lot of people are not necessarily willing to engage in that level of introspection. And I believe that that level of introspection is crucial for humanity in general to just kind of move beyond a lot of the nonsense we've been inundated with. But moving into the point of what I really wanted to talk about regarding this, dealing with narcissists all my life has put me through a lot of difficult cycles. And the most recent cycle being one that has very intense. Those of you that know, you know. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this particular video. But in balancing one's light and dark energy, and a lot of you are in this place now, or you've gone through this cycle in the past. For a lot of us, that was the lesson in dealing with the narcissist. Learning how to fully embrace and accept yourself and all of your flaws, but also learning how to deal with and sit in and alchemize the uncomfortable emotions, and to transmute energy and learn how to be in both your light and dark aspects. And so the way that I learned how to deal with narcissists, I had to learn how to shapeshift. Essentially, I had to become the narcissist to defeat the narcissist. Now, again, I say this many times, you are going to have to detach from your identity, especially your identity as a good person, whatever that is for you, whatever that means to you, if a lot of what I'm talking about is going to resonate. I know immediately as soon as I said, become the narcissist, a lot of people clicked off the video. Now, I am not saying that you share the narcissist values. I am not saying that you treat people the way the narcissist treats people, because that is not what I did. I mean, I'll explain, but I am not advocating for or saying that I stepped into an energy where I started to abuse other people. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that I had to understand the narcissist and connect to that energy in order to manipulate narcissistic people. And I know there are people, 404, I know there are people that are going to hear that and say, well, why do you want to manipulate narcissistic people? People that are narcissists are human, just like, again, you have to detach. If you're in that place and that's how you're reacting to this, don't watch this video. But to that I would say, yes, you're human, but how you choose to behave is what validates your own humanity. So no, the humanity of people that are toxic and harming me is not at the forefront of my priorities. I'm just being honest. So these were people that I had to protect and defend myself against. And so me growing up being very empathetic, being very kind, being very self-sacrificing, being very martyr-like, being very people-pleasing, that energy was only getting me more abused. So, we're talking about what keeps people safe. And so I had to learn to match that energy in certain ways. And one of those ways is cutting off that emotional space. I wasn't coming from my heart space because I couldn't, because that gets you burned. When you deal with people that don't have empathy, there is no advantage to showcasing your empathetic side. You're not going to win them over, right? I talk about this extensively. You guys know my stance on this, but just so we're clear and so you understand, this is not about what sounds ethical. This is about what works, right? And so I got results. I'm telling you how I got results. I got results by cutting off the thing that essentially would show the difference between me and the narcissist, which is my capacity to feel that empathy. And so I shut that off, not with everyone, of course, and that's why I said I would explain. People that did not harm me, I didn't treat those people badly, right? Like, there was no need to do that, because fundamentally, I am not a person that lacks empathy. But I had to learn how to deal with people that have different values than me. And so all of this to say, I've been re-examining narcissism and what it is, and coming full circle now out of these cycles and regaining my personhood, getting my own energy back after it's been harvested and stolen, and overcoming energetic manipulation. Coming out of that now, I never thought I would say this in a million years, but I think it's actually helped me to understand narcissists a little bit more. About as recent as 5 months ago, you would have heard me make very disparaging comments about narcissists. I'm not even saying that I was wrong. I'd still feel that way with people that are actively choosing not to heal and are okay with abusing other people. But I understand them now, in the sense that I can understand on a physical level, as a clairsentient, that emptiness, that coldness, that inability to care about another person, right? And this is part of why I said don't watch this and think and obsess about diagnosis, because I'm not even saying that all people with MPD experience that sensation. I have heard, just from doing my own research, watching certain videos, of accounts of people with ASPD, which is antisocial personality disorder, frequently referred to in layman's terms as sociopaths or psychopaths, depending on the degree of symptoms. I've heard quite frequently that they're never really excited about anything. Everything is just kind of gray. They feel empty. They feel tired. Like, it requires an immense amount of effort to want to connect to people, to want to engage, to feel like empathizing, right? And again, I want to be clear on what I'm saying. I'm not saying that feeling means you are a narcissist or that you're antisocial or whatever. I am saying that is a sensation and a feeling that I have heard a lot of narcissists express, and that is something that I think would explain what manifests as selfish or even cruel behavior on some level. Just that inability in a somatic sense to connect to another human being. That is something that I accessed for 11. That is something that I accessed within myself when dealing with narcissists. And I feel that I did this consciously. And I'm saying that because a lot of people will make statements like, oh, be careful, tapping into dark energy, your mind will be warped and you'll lose your morality and you'll become dark and lost and deranged, just like the person that attacked you. A lot of these things that people say are like fear-mongering, right? And they don't even know why they say it, other than the fact that these are beliefs that have been recycled throughout history. And they've been beliefs that are intentionally recycled to keep people in a conditioned state of complacency, to where they're not standing up for themselves. And so I consciously, as someone who works with archetypes and intentionally shifts my energy based on the situation that I'm in, I consciously made the decision to step out of my heart space, out of my heart chakra, and into my lower chakras, while still retaining my higher consciousness. Now, a lot of people, I am realizing, are not able to do that. And I'm not exalting myself by saying like, oh, I'm so much better because I can do that. I'm saying that I have received a lot of pushback from people who are really kind of stuck in either position. Like, stuck meaning like they cling to this love and light only narrative, or they're like the darkest of the dark. They do hexes all day. They never come out of their basement, and that's their approach to life. So I less frequently find people that are comfortable being in that in-between space and moving through those different vibrations. I am someone who is comfortable doing that because I feel that the height of wisdom is authenticity and being able to adapt to what a situation requires. That is what a lot of my philosophy is built upon. That being said, I can understand how a lot of these people that would be referred to as narcissists do feel. You know, like to a degree. I keep saying that, but there's limits and there's levels to everything. Now, I will never relate to the part of a lot of these people that wants to just go out of their way to abuse people or who abuse people for the purpose of gaining validation or gaining energy. I've never understood that. I don't feel the need to do that because I generate my own energy and I'm connected to the source of all things. And so that is where I get my sense of validation and energy from. I recognize that there are people that do not have that connection, and so they kind of move through the world in a very parasitic way, and they purposely trigger people and mistreat people to get the gratification and the energetic charge that comes from that. Another reason why I think I've become uniquely acquainted with that feeling of emptiness or just feeling of misanthropy, I don't know if that's the word, is also because of having my energy in a sort of way swapped with someone who is narcissistic. So if you don't believe in that, then I don't know. But the occult is very real. I've spoken about it. I speak about it. Someone essentially tried to bind me to them, and this was a very long, multiple-year cycle. Eventually, I was able to get out of it, but I was in sort of an energetic trap, and because I am clairsentient to a very high degree, I was feeling all of this person's emotions and all of their stuff, and it was almost like I started adopting aspects of their consciousness while they were siphoning mine. And so you hear the word destiny swap a lot. That's a lot of what I experienced throughout my life, but definitely in particular with one person that was just like the worst. And so being connected in that way gave me a really unique look into the psyche and the consciousness of these people. Now, the outcome of this is that I think I'm in a place where I can be more open to helping individuals with this particular issue. And now, when I say this issue, I'm specifically referring to the inability to access the heart space, right? Because that, to me, on a spiritual level, is what narcissism is. People that are stuck in their lower chakras and therefore stuck in their lower consciousness, in their lower functioning. Because empathy is essentially what makes us civilized beings, right? If it weren't for that, we would just be like any other beast in the field, like animals, and you can find animals that are more empathetic than people these days, which is kind of crazy. But when you're in that dark space, either by choice, like by inducing that, which is what I did in order to get through my cycles, or by trauma, or by, maybe being born that way or whatever, it can be hard to kind of get back. Now, I'm going through the process of heart chakra awakening, which is next video I'm going to post. No, I just almost slapped my hat off here. That's the next video I'm going to post that kind of ties in line with this. It requires certain things in order to be able to do that, to ascend through the heart. And a lot of people mention forgiveness being one of them. And that's also something I'm getting a little bit better at understanding. I don't believe that the word forgiveness is something that is actually what people claim it to mean because of the condition attached to it, right? And that's why, just hearing that word can be triggering for me. It's not something that resonates with me because all I think of is religious trauma, gaslighting, invalidating, and suppression. That's what I hear when I hear forgiveness. I know that's not how people mean it when they say, and that's why I say too, like, words are words, but then there's also our lived experience and our culture and everything else that projects onto those words. But I recognize within myself that is why that word doesn't resonate for me. So what we're talking about is, how do we transmute energy? How do we ascend from the lower chakras up into our higher consciousness? How do we overcome trauma? How do we regulate our emotions and things like that? How do we cope? But at the bottom of it, it's all about transmutation. There are people who come from particular backgrounds, like maybe they're religious or Christian in particular, like they resonate with the concept of forgiveness because that is how they conceptualize being able to return to the self or to ascend and access more comfortable emotions. To me, that's not something that is necessary to transmute that energy. I conceptualize that as just me shifting into another energy. And all of that to say, these journeys have helped me understand, I think to a better degree, that we're all doing the same thing, but we're calling it different things. And this is where a lot of the arguments, I think, especially in the spiritual community, come from. But with narcissism in particular, knowing how to access those heart-centered emotions of compassion, investment, how to be emotionally available, things like that. When that is off, it is hard to turn that on, because especially if your narcissistic traits are triggered by being abused by other people or by another narcissist, when it comes from trauma, there really isn't much of an incentive, or it can feel like there's not much of an incentive to want to connect to other people, because if every time you connect to other people you get treated like crap, why would you want to? Like, what is the utility or the benefit of empathy under those circumstances? So me experiencing that firsthand has helped me access a level of understanding. I won't call it compassion, I won't call it respect, or I won't even say that I like narcissists now, because I don't. I'm not going to feign that in order to seem morally or ethically superior in any kind of way. What I am saying is that I understand it is a symptom, and it can feel like a heavy weight or an uphill climb or a struggle, or a heavy barrier to work through. And because I understand it now, having experienced it, I feel more comfortable and empowered in assisting people who want to access that, in accessing that. And when I look at it from that lens, it does kind of help me understand the people that are saying, the people that genuinely are saying it, not for the purposes of gaslighting, but saying it because they're unhappy about their ability to access that heart space, it helps me understand those people that are saying like, oh, you know, we're not all horrible people. We don't all abuse people. It's like, because I do realize you can get because the way diagnosis works, do an evaluation, you know, a professional will ask you questions, they ask you about your experiences, they'll do assessments, do certain screenings, and then I'm not 100%, but generally it's like if you meet 5 out of 9 criteria for the diagnosis, you get the diagnosis. And so you don't necessarily have to be abusive or even be like significantly toxic, because I do believe people are, like I said, people are all capable of being selfish or mean. But I don't think you have to have that particular criteria to get the diagnosis of NPD. So I think what's happening here is that a lot of people are getting this diagnosis, and these are people that actually want to have connections or connect to other people. And so when they see the internet being scoured with comments from people that have been burned by narcissists who are accurately describing their traumatic experiences, and you just went and got evaluated and got diagnosed as the type of person that is viewed this way, that's very uncomfortable. And so in that sense, I can empathize with those individuals. I will say, and this is me putting on just my lived experience, but also my mental health clinician hat on just for a second. I will say that a lot of these people in that particular case who just have difficulty connecting to other people, or maybe even resent humankind, I do feel like, me personally, some of those people, I would not give them a diagnosis of NPD. Because I think that feeling can be explained or better attributed to other reasons. One being late stage capitalism, abuse, neurodivergence, like just feeling out of sorts with humanity, being on the receiving end of abuse. Like, I think a lot of people that might be getting this diagnosis that they're narcissists are actually responding to environmental issues, and they're having difficulty accessing their empathy or feelings of warmth, because these are both mental and somatic symptoms. Like there is like a sensation that you will feel in your midsection when you have trouble connecting to a person, or when you're having trouble with emotional availability. That is something that happens. And so I think that is not always because a person actually is a narcissist. I think there's actually things that people go through that can result in that same experience. But all of that to say, having been very much in my heart space, you know, naturally, like from childhood, and having that kind of repeatedly chipped away at, and then having to completely come out of that energy altogether at times, just to have to deal with malignant narcissists, has given me, I think, enough of a perspective and ability to look at the situation differently. I don't know how else to say that. I don't want to say more than I actually mean, because that's what I mean. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts about this. Share in the comments what you think, if you agree, disagree. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching this. Also, take a look at my website. If you are someone who has been diagnosed with NPD, or you haven't, you recognize, though, I'm having a real hard time connecting to people, or engaging in relationships, or just feeling good, or feeling like I care about others. Like, If you're someone that's struggling with that and you would like some support from someone who can understand and who is actively working through that and transmuting that energy and has techniques on how to do that, feel free to book me for a session. I'd be more than happy to help you out. Thank you so much, you guys. Have a great rest of the day wherever you are in the world. Bye.